All right. What's up, everybody? So we will start in just one moment. I will have a little bit of setup to do, as I am. This is going to be the first installment of me streaming, sort of writing down some ideas on this current theory I'm working out on projecting price movements using standard deviations. This is not a new concept. People have been doing this for a while. However, I have a couple of observations. One second, let me adjust the volume on here. A couple of observations I've made that I want to go through and sort of backtest. Backtest meaning just go back through price, not actually like walk, not using like the replay functionality or anything like that in TradingView, but to go back through price and try to use some of the theory, some of the ideas to see how well it projects the price legs, and then we can take our notes and build on this theory. It's a theory I've been working out the last couple weeks. I mean, I've been thinking about it for a couple months now, but I didn't really grasp it until this last week, and a couple things clicked for me, and it's I've been using it. I've been using only this to predict my targets this week, and it's been pretty fucking powerful. So I wanted to do this stream tonight for a couple of reasons, just to document my thoughts, build this list, and also I wanted to share some of my findings with some people I am friends with. So hopefully you find this insightful. If I know you and chat in Discord with you, hopefully we can, banter about this a little bit, go back and forth, and try to refine this a little bit. But anyway, that's the whole point of this stream. I'm going to try to add a new thing to my stream, so give me 1 second. Name of the scene. No, I want to add a source. Oh, sheets. I already have one. Google Doc. Boom. Okay. Automatic. Okay. So here, I'm going to put it. Jeez, where do I put it? I'll put it right here. So this is the Google Sheet that we will be building. Let me try to adjust the size here. Hopefully everyone will be able to see that. And if it gets in the way of anything, let me know. All right. So we have our little Google Sheet that we'll be documenting on. And let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing that I want to talk about is the core idea here, right? So the theory is we can predict the next 1 or 2 legs of price action based on measured moves from I'm going to say accumulation or manipulation phases of the power of 3. Now, I'm going to just put in the next legs of price action at key points in time and price. All right, so this is the theory that we're working with, right? Yo, Nate, what's up, man? Hopefully you can hear me all right. It's been a minute, man. So I reached out to you specifically because there are only a couple people that I want to share this with at this stage, and you're one of those people. I think I've put this piece of the puzzle together pretty well, and I'm gonna just go through price and try to prove it, right? So I've been proving it this week by trading with it. There's still some stuff I need to work out, like when to go to certain levels. But I was able to like call top ticks of the market 3 times in the last week, which is pretty crazy, man. Made a good ass chunk on coin. Nice. Still fucking with those options, I'm guessing, right? So I was actually thinking about this, like I could probably use this with options because it can be slow, but it's a very precise measurement of what you're looking for, you know what I mean? And you should be able to predict the ups and downs, right? Now, I'm going to start with this theory. I'm going to put this down a little bit. We'll go back to the doc and fill out stuff as we go along, but we're starting with this. All right, so this is all based on the concept, the ICT concept of the power of 3, and using standard deviations in the different phases of the power of 3 to predict the next legs in price, right? So using the accumulation phase of the power of 3 to predict the manipulation, using the manipulation to predict the next expansion. And I've even seen it this week go a little bit further than that. And we're going to play around with some of those ideas as well. But the main goal is to just be able to predict the next leg and then the next leg from there, right? Possibly predict the next couple of legs, but we'll see how that works out. So, the theory, we can predict the next legs based on the key points in time and price, right? All right, so I'm going to move this up right here. In the first place, and actually, let me put this on the Google Doc. Starting out, we will be looking at the 15-minute time frame, and we will be measuring using bodies only. Now this is a key point to this whole thing, and the thing that I've sort of unlocked this week. A lot of people do these type of measurements, but they use wicks. I noticed something the first day that I've been trying these for a while, and the first time I used the bodies in a very key spot, it actually top ticked the market on my -4 prediction. And I was like, oh shit, that's crazy. I wonder if bodies makes more sense, right? So I was trying to do only bodies with all of the stuff I've been working on. And then also like, so there's times where it's a bit subjective, and we'll see it in the charts, right? There's times where you say, okay, is this the final swing? Is that the final swing? That's where the bodies will help too, because you can use the bodies to say, hey, even though the wicks actually came up in this section, the bodies were lower, so I wouldn't use that, right? But we'll get into the details here in a little bit. But that's a key thing with what I'm doing is 15-minute and using the bodies. Now, yeah, I would like to try it with stocks to see. I don't know. I don't know if that'll work, but I've only tried it with NQ so far. A little bit with ES. And there's another layer that I even like really talked about that I'll show you with NQ as well. Okay, but let's get into the charts. Enough talking about the theory. It makes sense, right? So the concept of the power 3, if you don't know the concept of the power 3, it is an ICT concept. It's basically, oh shit, I'm trying to move the other thing. Let's move this really little. It's basically that there's 3 stages of every candle, right? So of a daily candle, that's really what you're typically thinking about, but every candle has these 3 stages. There is a manipulation, there's an accumulation phase, a manipulation phase, and a distribution phase, right? And you can see it. We can mark them out here. Usually what you see is there is an Asian range accumulation phase, there's a London manipulation phase, and there's a New York distribution phase. We sort of kind of saw that today, right? So if we mark this out, so A for accumulation, maybe we have a manipulation move here, right? And then we have the distribution move. Jesus, am I not clicking on this shit? What the hell? And then we have the distribution move here, right? So that's AMD, that's the power of 3. And what we want to do is predict, okay, from this accumulation, how do we know where the manipulation is going to go? From this manipulation, how do we know where the distribution is going to go? There's a couple different theories I have with that. So let's start at the beginning of this week. So let's go to Sunday. Okay, this is a 15-minute chart. 15-minute is what I'm going to stick with unless it's some crazy move where the accumulation leads to a retracement. You could even predict that retracement, but the retracement usually are going to predict on the 1 minute. So we start out the week. We have clearly an accumulation here, right? We have a manipulation upwards, and we have a distribution downwards starting Monday, right? So this is actually all of the overnight session as well as New York here. This manipulation is New York morning to the start of lunch, and the distribution is actually happening during lunch, which is pretty rare, but it does happen, right? So we have our AMD. Okay, so according to the theory that I'm trying to work out, to predict this move, we have this wavy up and down. Now what I want to do and sometimes it works out like this. I'm thinking like, okay, what I usually would want to do here is look for the first signs. And we have a little bit of extra manipulation here. Now on the 15-minute, it's just a wick, right? But it's a little, this is a little like 1 minute manipulation. If we dropped into the 1 minute, this would look like a move down and then snapped back up, and then we get the actual manipulation move, right? So what I have been noticing is the last swing before the move is where you can do the measurement, right? Let's see if we can properly measure this one, right? So it wouldn't be this, it would be this swing. Boom, 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 boom. Close to close. That's it. Okay, so you see I'm only using bodies, and we go close. The white on my chart is a down close candle. The green is an up close candle. Close from the final swing, high close to low close, right? Actually, low close to high close is how you draw it. -4 is your terminus of the manipulation, right? We're assuming this is accumulation, right? Just based on the session, the time, as well as it just doing this wavy pattern, right? Timing is very important here. You're expecting manipulation at certain points in time. You're expecting them at, you know, New York Open. If there's news at 8:30, you're expecting a possible manipulation. So time is a pretty big factor there. That gives you an extra hint. Now, this isn't used for entry, right? You're still going to have to be able to predict, like when you drop on the 1 minute, you would have to see this as a manipulation for the higher time frame, the 15-minute manipulation move here, right? Which is actually a distribution on the 1 minute, right? But then you use the measured move on the 15-minute. Once you know it's closed over, right? So we have broken this downward structure here. We know that we're in the manipulation. Then you can do your measurement and you can figure out where this move is going to end, right? -4 is what you generally are going to want to go for. Unless it's a retracement, you'll go for -2. -2 is like TP1. -4 is full completion of the move. Now, one cool thing that you can do from this, if you know, hey, -4 is when the move is over. As soon as you hit -4, you can start looking for reversals, right? You can say, I know this is accumulation, I know this is manipulation, and this is where it really gets powerful, right? Being able to say, hey, this is probably the manipulation and where it's going to end, that's cool. You can get in on that move too. But what's even more powerful, when you can say, okay, manipulation is over at this point. Now I'm looking for a reversal for the better move, the distribution, right? The distribution is generally always going to be the better move. So we've hit that -4 on our manipulation move. Then we have the distribution. So when does the distribution end? The distribution, or sorry, when does the manipulation move? It ends at the -4, but the projection would end once we have broken the structure. So we've broken the structure once this very steep upside move has broken, and it breaks on this candle. So what I would say from here, okay, so we're done with that projection. I would say this is the final swing. This swing here, and it makes sense, right? The final swing is usually what's gonna like take the liquidity, right? So this stab up, I don't know if there's a high time frame PD array. I'm just guessing there's a high time frame PD array here that it was stabbing at, right? And sweeping. It doesn't matter. That's the cool thing about the fibs and the standard deviation projections. Like, look for your PD arrays, all that stuff. That's cool. You don't need it though. You can literally trade only based on the projections. So let's do a projected move from this final thing. Oops, picked the wrong tool, my bad. So once again, close to close. Close of this up close candle, this final one, to close of the down close candle. And what do we have? -4, terminus of the move. Look at that fucking shit, dude. Like, literally, this shit was blowing my mind this week, man. And it happens over and over and over again, all right? Body to body, close to close, right? So this is the down close candle. It's not even a swing low. That's where a lot of people get messed up. This isn't a swing low. This is just a down close candle in the manipulation move. You project from the high on the final push up, the close high to the close of the low, the down close candle here. This is the final push, right? We swung down, swung up, took some liquidity, assuming market structure break here, shift, whatever you want to call it, right here with this candle right here. Swing low, snapped. We come back up. You're going to use 1 minute, something like that for entry, right? Doesn't matter. Entry, do your thing. You know that we've already hit the terminus of this manipulation move, so you can do whatever entry you want. This is predicting the next move, and as you can see, this predicts it pretty fucking well, dude. We go to -2, we hit that. There's generally gonna be a pop on -2. Then this closes straight through -2, -2.5, comes back, taps on, goes to terminus, -4. Sometimes it goes to -4.5. Not always. I would take -4. I would take partials, -2, and -4 is your full move, right? Nate, I don't know. Shit, this restream thing sort of sucks. I can't really tell what your message is. Let me see if I can pull that up on YouTube or some shit. Bro, like, revisiting this is blowing my mind even more. Let me see if I can see the chat. All right. Live. Damn, YouTube sort of sucks, I'm gonna be honest. View in live control room. Oh shit, what's this? Oh, I don't really want to play my own thing. Oh, here we go. Oh, I can't see emojis. Yeah, it's just shitty emoji. Gotcha. It just looks like boxes. Cool. Yeah, dude. Hopefully this is blowing your mind like it blows my mind every time I see it. But another key thing. So let's go back to the Google Doc. Okay, so we say starting out, we're looking at the 15-minute time frame, and we'll be measuring using bodies only, right? On the final swing before structure shift or break, right? Now, another thing to keep in mind, the next move will not start until the current move finishes, right? Now, there's a couple of little caveats to that. The current move does finish at -2 sometimes, but that's usually when you're going in at a retracement and it's not actually a new power of 3 move, if that makes sense. On a retracement, I see a lot of times it'll just come to the -2 because it's not a real distribution move. It's a retracement from a distribution move, and it could have another leg after that, after it hits the -2. But you can measure that as well. All of these things are measured. Every move that the market makes can be measured. And what I've seen, once you hit the terminus of a move, anything past, a lot of times I can view as manipulation, and we can say that's like another power of 3 that you can project, right? So that's literally, like, look at this shit. This is the 4 o'clock candle, all right? This is the 4 o'clock candle. So on Monday, from the manipulation move, projection using bodies on the 15-minute, it was able to predict the close of the market on Monday. So the close of this candle is the close of the market, right? The close of the market was 17925. You can see that in the top left corner up here. So hovering over this candle, the New York close, like the 4 o'clock close or whatever. Not the futures close, but that one's pretty close to that line too. The New York close, the 4 o'clock close, was 17925. We have a projection of 1792550. It's literally 2 fucking ticks off of where the market closed at that day. That's insane, man. That's fucking insane. So I have a couple of theories as to why this works so well, and we can talk about that later. But the main thing is that it fucking works, you know? That's all that matters. Okay, so that was Monday. We correctly predicted the start and the end of the manipulation move. We correctly predicted the start and the end of the distribution move. That's fucking huge. I mean, you're talking hundreds of points, man. Hundreds of points in NQ off of these moves. All right, so we have overnight. Let's try to mark out our AMD here. Damn, I keep clicking on this and it's just not registering. So I think what we have on Tuesday. Now Tuesday is a little bit of a curveball, it looks like, because that's when we had our 8:30 news. But let's see what we can do with Tuesday. This was our CPI news, right? Accumulation, manipulation. I don't know why I put that shit on the bottom, but. And then we have like this distribution here. And this is where it gets a little weird. And you really need to probably wait for news to happen. So actually I got this wrong. So we have accumulation. It's not doing anything. It's not breaking any kind of highs or lows here. It's just going back and forth. It does break one here. So I don't know how well this is going to work because I haven't done this one. But what I would say is the last swing is this. Actually, it does break some highs here. Yeah, this is a tricky one. This move, I would say, is the end of our accumulation and our beginning of our manipulation. So let's see how well a projection. Yeah, I traded on it this week. from Tuesday is really when I locked it in. I was like, shit, this is fucking crazy, right? So since Tuesday, I got five 50K accounts on TopStack. And I had, let's see, Tuesday. I think it was 4 days. Let me check Top Step real quick. Let me check. I don't want to lie. So I was fucking around a little bit on my 150K, which is like the current combine I'm trying to mess around with and get past. So I was trying some stuff that I didn't really have tuned in too much. So I took some L's on that one, but I ended up pretty strong. So here, I'll show you my my 150K. So I did take some L's. This is over all the time. The stats are not that great on it, but I ended pretty strong. So I ended with 2 days, one for 800 and then today for 1300. I had a 1600 day, and I tried a couple things at the end of yesterday that blew a little bit of it, but it still ended with 800. So yeah, basically this week I took some L's here. I was at work, just being stupid on my phone. So I need to take it a little bit more seriously, but it's been pretty good. Now, if you look at, so I got these 550K accounts because they're giving away for $4 each. And I was like, I'm just going to try to catch the, I'll make some clickbaits, dude. Don't worry. One day. I was like, okay, on these 50Ks, I'm gonna group them up. I'm gonna trade them. I'm gonna copy trade them. All 5, I'm gonna copy trade, do the same move on each one, right? And I'm gonna just try to take like the most sure thing setup that I see and just try to do one trade, right? Check this shit out, dude. This is all using standard deviations. So 4 days, I traded 4 days, 483, 508, 548, and then a 301 today. And I cut the 301 early because I was a little nervous because we had such a crazy bearish day today and I was playing a retracement. So, but 100% win rate. Look, 4 trades, man, over 4 days, just doing 1 trade a day, all fucking wins, dude. But this was with micros. This one's with micros. To answer your question, Bruce. I trade minis on the 150, but I copy traded. Check it out. It takes a second to load, but so every one of them looks the same. I traded the same thing. So I got 5 50K accounts at 51.8 right now after 4 days. So it's been pretty crazy. But let's get back to the meat. Let's get back to the AMD, the power of 3. All right. So let's see if we can predict this. Now, this is where it gets a little subjective, right? We have a clear accumulation here and we have a manipulation move, right? It's not the clearest manipulation move, right? I mean, it's sort of an upward trending thing, but let's try to see if we can predict this this manipulation terminus here. So we got to think about the swings. Swing, 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 manipulation, right? Remember, these are 15-minute candles, so you do have some time to think about this. If I were to just go by, and no, I should go by bodies, right? So let's try this. Okay, so we have -2 from that one. Let's try this, the very last one. See, that one's way too small. Yeah, this is a difficult one. If we try this swing, I mean, that's not going to work for sure. The accumulation and manipulation is one thing that is baffling me a little bit. So this one's not like super clear. The manipulation to distribution, I think we're going to have the same kind of situation here, but this is clearly the last swing on the manipulation. So let's see if we get a good projection there. And we do. That's really great. So as you can see, this is the last swing in the manipulation before we have another little manipulation, but you can see the body stay below it. So I would call this still the last swing, even though these wicks come up higher. And we definitely break structure with this swing low here, right? Yeah, 100%. It's crazy. So yeah, from the last swing, we got close to close, right? Close of this down close candle to close of the last up close candle in the manipulation move before we break structure. So we can see, and this works out almost every time, guys. Like the accumulation to manipulation is the hardest to predict because sometimes the accumulation is just sort of tricky. It's not always just boop, 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 boop. Sometimes it's going up and then going down and doing these waves, right? So that part is a little trickier, but if you can properly identify that we're in a manipulation and you see a shift back down, you can generally just eyeball this as accumulation manipulation and then try to get in. The first thing is getting in, right? You still got to do the work of having your entry model that can get you in and not get you stopped out, right? So you still have to get in here correctly, but once you do, it's very easy to predict your end goal here. So you can see here, we come down, once again, we hit the -2, we actually hit the -2.5 almost right off the bat, 17883, you see that? The low here, what's that? 17883, to the fucking tick, guys. To the fucking tick right here before we have a little bounce back, right? Now, I'm not replaying this 1 minute at a time, but I can tell by the way this candle closed that it probably hit this, bounced up, came back down, right? It did come here, so maybe hit this, come back, do that, right? You're usually going to get a little reaction in this area, -2, -2.5. Clean through there and come to terminus at the -4. At this point, the move is over, right? And you're waiting for the next AMD type setup for the next projection. Now, we have an 8:30 news event on this day. This was Tuesday. So it's more like a two-stage delivery here. But let's see how we could maybe try to say, okay, we've hit terminus. Is this an accumulation? Maybe. A manipulation and a distribution. Now, the weird thing about this, the manipulation sort of goes in the same direction. This is a lower time frame move. So I'd actually probably jump to like the 1 minute there. But news moves, probably not going to catch them as often with this. You can use other models, other structure-based ideas to catch a news move like this. But I mean, this is CPI drop. If you're jumping in there on that drop, then you're really just YOLOing, right? You're just sort of gambling at that point. But what you'd want to do is wait for that move to finish and see that as a manipulation and use that manipulation to measure the next move or moves, right? So from this big candle down, we're usually not going to use a 15-minute. When we're trying to predict this retracement back up, we'll use a 1 minute. So let's remember this. Tuesday, CPI drop, and let's go to the 1 minute. All right, so we're Thursday. Let's scroll back, scroll back, scroll back. Okay. So here is Tuesday, CPI drop. We can basically just try to play the first break of structure back to bullish to try to predict the this retracement, right? And you can see this is sort of a market maker buy model here. Sort of, kinda. I mean, not really, because it doesn't have the different legs and we don't actually go and take it, but it is a nice break of structure, like a smart money reversal down here, break of structure, and we have some entry points here that we can take for a nice little retracement. So this is an area that I could try to project our move. We see that as a pretty good projection from the smart money reversal. If we want to go like to the full last swing, if you don't count these little tiny accumulations, you'd want to look at something like that. You can see we take that. So a little more difficult when it comes to news. When you're on the 1 minute, a lot of stuff shows itself, but as you can see, you can still use these measured moves for stuff like this to try to get in. Okay, -2, we go back to -1, -4, that's the end of the move. All right, so if it's the end of the move, then we'll take this as another manipulation. And then we can take this and try to measure the full move, and boom, look at that. Almost right to -4, right? So when the price is moving a little more quickly, a little more volatile, maybe you have to do a couple of measured moves to get the full thing. You might even be able to drop to a 5 minute on here and look at that. The main thing that I'm trying to focus on is using the 15 minute for just normal day projections, right? Normal day, what's the next 4 to 8 hours gonna do, right? If we look on the 5 minute, it's pretty good. It's actually not, it doesn't align at all. That's pretty shit. I wouldn't use the 5 minute for this. I'd use a 1 minute or the 15 minute. But let's go back to the 15 minute because we have more to look at. All right. So you could see that the CPI drop, we can't really predict the drop from CPI that well, but we can use the 1 minute to try to project the retracement. And then once this comes back down here, right? So we have a retracement. You can use the 1 minute after that to try to project this next second leg of like distribution here. It would probably work out. I'm not going to switch back to it because I want to show you the more important thing. So this is Tuesday leading into the end of the day, right? So CPI drop, retrace. You can use traditional, honestly, just use traditional premium and discount on this and try to catch these moves. But once we take the important liquidity down here on a clear news manipulation move, then is when you want to really use our projections again. All right. So the cool thing about the volatility of this and how structure or price came down here with this manipulated move to take a key point, a key low here, previous week low, leaving this nice swing. This can project basically the next day, right? Because of how big this swing is. And you can see that it projects it almost perfectly, right? So coming back up, here's the retracement. This actually happened right at the end of the day. I don't know if you guys remember the that last retracement on the CPI day, but we had a pretty strong retracement back at the very end of the day. You could project that with a 1 minute. I think I projected it pretty well. That might have been my first one. Let me go back to the 1 minute. Sorry, there was one projection I was like, damn, that's fucking crazy, dude. So here's the 1 minute again. There's the final blow on that CPI. I'm not counting this candle. that little doji candle there, I'm not going to count that. You go from the low here to the high here. We'll get rid of this 15-minute one, right? Because that's the next high close. And we can predict where the market is heading, right? You can even use that one. They're very close. I would use this one. Close to close. You can see it reacts to the 2. That's actually a little off. I think this one might. I'm going to go with this one because it works better with the rules, right? Close to close. The last swing. Up, down, right? So yeah, you're able to project that final retracement there from hitting that key point. Let's go back to the 15, to what I really wanted to show you. This was like the fat money getting projection here for this week. So once again, close to close, last swing before taking previous week low. And honestly, if you had a strategy where you just waited for like a really big key area to be taken, like previous week low or previous week high, and you just did a 15-minute projection and you just traded the next day, day and a half based on those projection levels, and then you can go into, you know, lower time frames to do other projections, little, you know, how do I measure this move down? How do I measure the move back up? You know, stuff like that. You can go back on the lower time frames, but you could literally just take this and you could say, okay, I'm going to trade this to the -2. Then I'm going to wait for something to happen, right? We have Asia, London, Asia and London, right? This is all basically accumulation, manipulation, distribution, right? Then from this distribution, it goes up. And this is the final candle on Wednesday. And it comes to 17887. This is 1788675. So the projection on the 15-minute bodies close to close from taking the high time frame PD array the previous day projected the close of the next day to within 1 tick on NQ. That's fucking insane, dude. That is fucking insane. I'll go into more of why I think that is at some point. Like I said earlier, I'm more worried about like actually like being able to execute with this every day. So I'm more worried about that. But I do have some theories on why that works. So yeah, you can see from here, let's say we're only going to trade New York, right? And we have this little accumulation in London. And let's say we want to play this accumulation, manipulation, and distribution. I need to save this with the freaking thing above it. Let's say we want to play this. Like this is what we want to get because we're only available during New York Open and we want to play this AMD. This is an AMD, right? This is an AMD on the 1 minute. I mean 5 minute as well, but I would look at the 1 minute. So let's mark this out and let's go to it. So there's the AMD, right? So you look at, this is 9:30 open right here. And I think we even have like more AMD, but we got a lot of whipsaw back and forth. That's normal for accumulation, right? This is when we break this accumulation, I think, with this kind of displacement through the high. That's a little tricky. It's a little tricky. But let's see if we can use that to try to predict the manipulation move. And maybe we say it's actually like this is still part of. You could say that this is still part of the accumulation until this actual break. But let's say yeah, that works. So if you say that this one doesn't count because it doesn't displace through. It does close above, right? This is where it gets very subjective. It's all good, man. You just missed like the most important projection, but it's cool. Let's say this is actually the start of the move, right? And this is entry, which makes sense because we're at 10 o'clock, right? So time matters. So this would be the last swing. So this being the last swing down before the manipulation up, you can see that we can predict the end of the manipulation. And if you can predict the end of the manipulation, you can predict the beginning of the distribution, right? So this is the end of the manipulation because we hit -4. We break structure here, do whatever entry that is good for you. If you say break structure, that like this is an order block coming back into the order block, you could do that. But I would say that this is probably the final, because this is the highest body. I'm going to say this is the final swing. So let's see how well it does with the distribution phase. It does all right. It does all right. It does come down here, hit -4, and then it produces more. So that's meh. It's pretty meh. But you could still take that for nice profits. And look how it sits up on the -2. Busts through, comes back into the order block, and then you get your next leg, right? So I think this is a proper power 3 projection move. It just it went further, right? Still got to work out why that is, you know. But I think that, you know, seeing those bodies holding up on the -2, I mean, that really shows me what I need to see for this being pretty valid. I'll go into the last bit. Once we finish the rest of these moves, but let me show you. All right, Nate. Let me show you the most important projections that are projection this week that we had, right? So it comes off of taking previous week low. This is a very key point, right? Taking previous week low, you're expecting a reaction, right? And we do get it. You're not expecting it, but you're thinking there could be a reaction. And once you get it, you say this is a very key point in time, right? So that's when you did the projection. And I did trade with it this week, Bruce. I've been watching projections for a while, and I made this kind of body breakthrough using the bodies of the candle breakthrough this week. And I traded it with a couple accounts. So I had some pretty good success. A couple of misfires where I was too early. Honestly, all my misfires came here because I was looking at this and I was like, okay, we're going to -4. And it faked me out a couple times. And I did take a couple losses in this kind of choppiness heading up. But I needed to be more confident, which, how can I say I need to be? Like, this is very new to me and I'm still working this out. So I'll get confidence for sure as we go along. But I think this is the truth, like for real. And hopefully you guys can see the value here. But this is the most important projection. 15-minute, taking a high time frame area, right? Previous week low. You project that. And Nate, I don't know if you saw this or not, or if you're in your call, but that projection from the end of the day Tuesday projected the high at the end of the day Wednesday by one tick. 17886. I don't know if you can see that, but that number is 17886.75, and the high of the day on Wednesday where it ended is 17887. One tick off, dude. So there is a lot of nuance in how you need to use this and how you need to enter, and you're gonna have to weather these kind of storms. If you're trying to take it from, start to finish, you have to realize that -2 and -2.5, they are going to create a reaction for sure. It's going to make a reaction. Like almost every time I've seen it, there's a reaction. And a lot of times it comes back to -1, just like it does here. And then it puts in another shift back up and it goes off to -4. So just keep that in mind. If you do trade based off of this idea, there's a lot to feel out, But one thing you can do is once that hits, we can know that this move is over, right? I think that's a really key point in this. When -4 hits, do not expect anything else other than looking for your next move that you're going to project, right? So the next move here, this was the end of the day. So, Asia and London, I'm not going to trade. But you see here, we get a New York, manipulation move, right? It's very similar to this Wednesday New York Open manipulation. However, this was sort of a two-stage manipulation. This just dropped down. We did have a news event, so I had a little wick up. I don't really count that. The body stayed below, right? That's what I really care about. The wick, who cares? But let's say we want to use our theory on this clear AMD here. I'm just going to go with this, but this is accumulation. Manipulation, right? And distribution. Now, this distribution, I was expecting something like this, right? I had it laid out during the day yesterday. And I was like, oh, it's going to go any minute. It's going to pump. This got me stopped out, I think, once yesterday on my 150K. I ended up doing pretty well, but it did trick me a little bit. So you see, we don't have the distribution we were hoping for yesterday, right? It was just this. But let's use our 15-minute projections to try to project this stuff, right? So we have swings. This is still sort of accumulation. When do we have the first break in structure? I guess right here. So I'm gonna try, but this is a news move. This is news manipulation up. I might use that for I forget what I used, honestly, for this move, but let's try to say it's this. Yep, that's pretty fucking good. So that's where it takes a bit of practice, right? This news candle, you can say is manipulation. But the reason I didn't use it is because this swing low was broken here before the news manipulation. And the news manipulation did not go higher than this body, right? This body is higher than the body of the news manipulation. So to me, that's still the final swing. And if that's the final swing, then this is terminus of the move at -4, which it respects pretty well. The manipulation is generally going to respect -4, -4.5 pretty well. It might slip out a little bit. You can take that as your manipulation, your further manipulation from the move to do your projection of the next phase distribution, right? And I'm sorry if this is a little confusing. I've been like obsessing over this for the last couple weeks. Let's keep those up actually. So I'll tell you what I was predicting yesterday that didn't really work out, but something cool happened overnight. So this was our last swing on the manipulation move, right? Now we had I am pretty sure I took this trade to -2. Pretty sure, I don't remember exactly, but that trade to -2 is pretty freaking good, right? Like that is, if you can get in, let's say you get in late and you get in on this tap back into the fair value gap here. I mean, you're talking 853 to 926. I mean, that's so good. That's so good with one contract. So Bruce, I've found that the 15-minute has been the best at predicting like the day, right? So trying to predict how far a manipulation move is going to go for that day, for that morning, that individual session, how far a distribution move is going to go for that session, or maybe through a couple of sessions, right? It predicts longer moves, obviously, because it's a higher time frame than the 1 minute. But if you drop down to the 1 minute, this works pretty well for predicting all the other little moves within the day, right? If you want to try to predict this, let's say you know that this is going to come down to entry here, and you want to predict on the 1 minute how far down this is likely to come for entry. Let's play with that idea, right? I haven't even tried that, but that's the kind of shit I usually have been using the 1 minute for. So let's say we are here. We see this structure break down here, but we don't get in. We see it late, but we see all this low resistance liquidity, and we see a structure break down, and you say, okay, I want to know where it's going to go before it's likely to turn back around, right? That's where I'd use this, and I'd use it right here, and look at that fucking shit. I didn't even do that before right now. I did not even do that before now. Like, it's insane, guys. This works in all time frames, but you have to be smart, right? You have to be smart at the time and place when you do this shit, right? So body to body, once again, close to close, close of the down close of the up close of the last swing before the break, you can predict with pretty good fucking accuracy when this move is going to end, and that's a retracement move on the 1 minute, guys. The market moves off of these projections. Like, I'm almost certain after all of the research and trading with it this week. I know it's a bold claim, only doing this for like a week, like dedicated to just this, but it's crazy, man. It's crazy. Like, I was literally talking to my wife about this. Like, I don't know if I want to even tell anyone about this. Like, it feels like I have some information that I'm not supposed to have. Right? And I know people do projections. Like, this isn't a new thing. I got this concept from ICT. But I haven't seen myself, someone use the bodies like I've been using. And the main, it's crazy because I feel like I sound like some stoner or something when I'm thinking about this. But the main reason why I started using bodies, well, first off, it lined up once, and I was like, that's interesting. Then I kept thinking, like, man, ICT, he always drones on about this. The bodies tell the story. The bodies tell the story. The bodies tell the story. And this dude, he like talks in riddles, right? Like, if you ever watched any of his videos, he always like, he never gives you the sauce, right? He fucking talks in riddles and tries to make you figure it out, right? And he always talks about that shit. The bodies tell the story. The wicks do the damage, the bodies tell the story. And I'm like, dude, maybe he's hinting like they're telling you the story of what the market's going to do if you use the bodies. Yeah, dude, you start using the bodies on the, like, the key here is the 15 minute and the 1 minute. All right. The 15 minute for your daily moves, the 1 minute for your intraday retracements or, you know, entries, stuff like that. It lines up, man. Like it's been lining up all week, and it's crazy. And you'll usually see stuff like this, right? Where you have your fair value gaps forming in these areas. And that's when you know, that's usually when you know for sure -2 and -2.5 is not the end. It's going to -4. And I don't know if you guys are seeing this on your screen right now, but look at where London ended before news today, and we had a huge drop. -4.5 on the projection from this manipulation move on Thursday morning was 18026, and the high from the overnight session before news was 18026. Literally exactly. This is when it really blew my mind today. I woke up and I saw this. I had this projection up because I was expecting it to happen yesterday. I was like, man, there's not much time. I don't know if it's going to get there. It's really far away. And it didn't. And I was a little bummed out. I'm like, fuck, man, my projections, okay, they didn't work this time. It's all right. It's all right. You know, I'll keep working at it. I was a little bummed. And then I woke up this morning. I still had my projection on. And I saw that it rounded out and started moving back down at exactly the 4.5, right? And when did it start chopping around? As soon as it took the -4, right? Zoomed up, London zoomed up to -4. And then it starts accumulation phase. It manipulates in this accumulation phase to the tick on the -4.5. I'm not going to make a course. Don't worry, man. This is free for everyone. I'm probably going to limit like who I tell to come check out the stream or whatever, but I'm not going to sell this, don't worry. But yeah, it's been blowing my mind. It's crazy, man. Yeah, like you can make a killing off this, right? So that is the week up until today when we had a news drop, right? Again at 8:30, and we had this crazy downward move. So, all right, are you ready to have your minds blown again? Like, I know it seems like you can't have your minds blown anymore. Hopefully it feels like there's no way this can get crazier. Well, it can get crazier. All right, so we had the terminus of that move, right? Let's put that back on. I want to show that. So we had the terminus of that move, right? That move up is done. We're waiting for the next move. Now, we don't really get any clear projection. I was trying to do this morning, and I was like, man, I just really can't figure out this one, right? Because you have these swings and then this accumulation, and it's sort of this slow little waterfall, and then news just dumps. I'm like, there's no way. Bias plays with it for sure. Like, I think you gotta have your daily bias in mind, and especially your weekly profile in mind when you're doing this. My weekly profile, or my weekly plan, and I streamed it. You can go look on. It's somewhere on my channel at the beginning of the week. On Sunday, I put it up. My weekly plan was to take previous week high and not previous week low. I think it was to take previous week high and then to come to a 1 day order block. There was a 1 day order block, right? It ended up taking previous week low. But my overall bias was that we were going to have a dip in the beginning of the week and then a pump throughout the rest of the week. So I do think like using that bias, your daily bias for the projections will help. But I think using the concept of the power of 3 is probably more important. When you wake up and you see a clear accumulation, a clear beginning of the manipulation, or maybe even the manipulation is already done, you can start using your projections and saying, okay, I projected from the accumulation, the manipulation is for sure done. Like it's already hit the terminus, we're good, right? Now let's measure the manipulation. Let's see where the distribution can be. The daily bias doesn't matter as much as the power of 3, I would say. I think it matters, but not as much as power of 3. And you really just want to get good at identifying the accumulation phases. Because sometimes the accumulation phases like this, it can look like this. It can be this upward accumulation. It's like a channel, right? You got to know that that's not manipulation here. This is accumulation. So anyway, that's my rant about that. All right, so back to this news drop. I was racking my brain today thinking, okay, how can I predict this move? I was going like this. I'm like, okay, that sort of kind of works. Yeah, like gets through the 2, but not really. Like, yeah, these bodies. You can always sort of make a case for these things a little bit, but honestly, it doesn't line up very well, right? And I'm like, okay, maybe it just didn't work with this one. Until I remembered a Twitter space. Now this is random and crazy, right? But I remembered a Twitter space where ICT was talking about projections, using standard deviations to project moves. And he said something like, have you ever tried putting a standard deviation on a fair value gap? Because you can measure moves that way too. And I was like, okay, whatever, dude. Like, sure. So I thought about that today. I'm like, we got a big ass fair value gap before market open, right? Before like on news drop, before market open, that then, like before 9:30, we tapped back into before the second leg of this. I wonder what that projects to. Look at this shit. You project the fair value gap and you get the terminus of the fucking move, dude. It's crazy. So that can give you another little hint at where the move can go. And another thing, if you're looking at this projection, the terminus of the move, we come up, we bounce up and down on this like it's a freaking fair value gap. It's a projection from a fair value gap, -2 and -2.5, sort of kind of behave like a fair value gap here. It's always expanding through it. There's no accumulation here, right? So just like you are projecting areas of accumulation or, swing levels, right? When we're projecting from this area here, like what are we doing, right? we're projecting when the next accumulation will be. So the term, you can use this to project the move because it's the in-between parts of the accumulations, right? We take this, we project this next accumulation. We project this next accumulation, right? We take the fair value gaps. We project the areas in price that are going to have gaps. These are all broken through smoothly. -4 is our terminus. I got to play around with this a little more because I just found that one today and it just blew my mind a little bit. Now, just like on the other news drop, we can project, you know, smaller. I say smaller, but it was a pretty big move. So today I just used the 1 minute when I didn't know this was the terminus. If I knew that little fair value gap trick, then I would have known this was the terminus. I probably would have got in sooner. But what I did know is that we did a change of state delivery here. So I took a guess that this was the terminus of the move. And if we do a projection there, you can see that we are projecting our next accumulation area, right? So I actually took this up. I did play this to, I played this to -1 actually. I was worried that this was a retrace and we're going to come back down from here. As you can see, it did go to the -2 very nicely. And oops, from that -2, I'll just leave that up there. It gets a little sloppy when you're doing a bunch though. So actually let me delete it. From that -2, if we were going to project, actually no, let me leave it back up there. So -2 to -1, I did play that move as well. I was actually predicting -2, -1 to -4. But obviously that didn't play out with how bearish the day was. But even here, -1, you could project, this is our final swing, right? You could project the final, the terminus of this push back up. It aligns with this high here. So that makes sense, right? You have a little accumulation here, and then it just breaks through and breaks down. Yeah, that's it. Good to see you, Nate. I'm glad you came to hang out. This shit's, I think it's next level. I think this is like the fucking nuts, man. So I'm going to keep working on this, and I'll stream when I find out new things. I just wanted to drop this as like a little bit of an intro. And I'm going to add to this right now. So let's add some notes onto this. Accumulation. Final accumulation swing can be used to project manipulation leg, and final manipulation swing can be used to project distribution leg. Low of day open and a high close on 1 hour, you get -2.5 perfectly, but I wasn't expecting that much of a drop yesterday. Low of day open and high close. Okay, 1 second. Let me check. I think you could probably use this in all time frames and predict moves that align with that time frame, right? So I'm liking using the 15-minute because the 15-minute alignment is with the 4 hour, and the 4 hour is a great measurement to break the day up, because the day is broken into chunks of 4 hours, right? You got Market opens at 6 to 10 p.m., 10 p.m. to 2 a.m., 2 a.m. to 6 a.m., 6 a.m. to 10 a.m., 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. again, which we have 1 hour of close. But yeah, man, we should definitely check if this shit works with stocks. It would be interesting. I mean, I only care about futures, but feel free to take this theory and let me know, dude. Like, play around with it. Play around with different time frames. But the key is bodies. The key is bodies. And I don't know why no one is talking about that. At least from what I've seen. No one's talking about using the bodies. Everyone uses the wicks, man. And sometimes they hit, but I don't think it's as accurate as using the bodies. The bodies matter. Especially when you're talking about the last swings, because the wicks can throw you off, man. Just ignore that shit. Okay, so final accumulation, blah, blah, blah. Can use fair value gap projections to predict areas of price that will not be as resistant to accumulation, just as we're predicting accumulation to accumulation, right? Anyway, I'm going to end it with that. We got a little document set up. But yeah, that's what I wanted to showcase tonight. And this is the first of hopefully many. Was that on a 5-minute? My bad. This is the first of hopefully many streams talking about this shit. And we'll just keep using. Let me look at the 1 hour you were saying. Low of day open. You talking about up here? High close on 1 hour. So if we go like here, you're talking about like this? Oh, yeah. Look at that. To the fucking tick. So yeah, think about that, and think about when this is a 1 hour projection, right? That you're talking about, which is great. And think about what that means for the next coming days. Because what I think that means is we'll probably get to the -4, -4.5 within the next day, right? So that's pretty powerful. 15 minutes is. I'm gonna stick with that because I think it's probably better for intraday trading. But yeah, using it on the higher time frames, it would be cool if we could try to predict like weeks, right? And then within those weeks, predict the little swings with 1 hour projections, 15-minute projections, go down to 1 minute for your entries. I think this is how the market works, guys. I'm pretty confident. From what I've seen with the body projections, you're gonna get to -4. If you have your direction correct, which I think this is the correct direction. On the hourly, we're in bearish structure, right? This I see as a retrace. We're in bearish structure. So I think the terminus of this hourly move is going to be this -4. Yeah. But see how that plays out. From what I have seen, a retracement move like this will be the -2.5, and then it ends. -2, -2.5, and then it ends. But on moves aligned with the current market structure of the time frame, I think it hits. So let's see if it hits. I'm going to leave this one up here, and we'll see if it hits Monday. All right. Thanks for hanging out. I'll see you guys next time, and I hope you enjoyed. So, bye.